The entertaining and informative history of America, from Columbus to World War I, how the USA rose to become a world power. It is written in an engaging, educational, family-friendly tone inspired by oversimplified extra history and Bill Wirtz, while still being historically accurate and beautifully flowing like a documentary script or magazine article. The entertaining history of America, Columbus to WWU1. 5,000 words. How a group of scattered colonies became the richest and most powerful nation in history. Introduction. A nation that would one day change the world. In 2024, the United States of America stood at the top of global power, producing 26% of the world's GDP, commanding about 40% of global military spending, and influencing nearly every corner of Earth. But the country that now dominates global finance, technology, entertainment, and military strength began with no grand plan, no united people, and certainly no expectation that one day it would rival the greatest empires in history. The story of America is one of accidents, ambitions, rivalries, revolutions, courage, mistakes, and luck. It began not with a nation, but with a navigator who thought the world was much smaller than it actually is. It grew through colonies that didn't always want to be colonies, wars that were fought far beyond American shores, and decisions made in royal courts and quiet treaty rooms thousands of miles away. This is the entertaining and simplified, but historically accurate story of how America went from being that unexplored land across the sea to a rising superpower by the dawn of World War I. Chapter 1. The Age of Discovery and the Accidental Discovery of a New World. Columbus's bold miscalculation. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed west from Spain, hoping to reach Asia. His pitch to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella was simple. "Let me go west to reach the east. I promise spices, gold, and new Christians." The royal advisors were skeptical, and they were correct. The earth was much larger than Columbus believed, and if the Americas hadn't been in the way, his crew would have starved long before Japan appeared on the horizon. Still, Columbus convinced the monarchs, sailed west, and accidentally bumped into islands in the Caribbean. Until his death, he insisted it was Asia, even though nothing he saw resembled the descriptions he had read of China or India. Although Columbus never realized his mistake, his voyages changed history forever. Europe now knew of a massive continent filled with new opportunities, land, trade routes, and vast natural resources. Spain begins to build an empire. Spain quickly claimed enormous territories, from the Caribbean to Mexico, Central America, and the entire western coast of North America. Their goals were straightforward: find wealth, especially gold and silver, spread Catholic Christianity, strengthen the Spanish Empire. For more than a century, Spain was the dominant European power in the Americas, but other nations, especially England and France, were watching closely. Chapter 2. English Colonization and the Birth of 13 Colonies. Jamestown and the Search for Wealth. In 1607, the English established Jamestown, their first permanent colony in North America. It was anything but glamorous. The colonists struggled with starvation, disease, and conflict with the Powhatan Confederacy. But they survived, thanks in large part to tobacco, which became the golden crop that fueled English profit and expansion. Pilgrims, Puritans, and New England. A decade later, religious groups seeking freedom, such as the Pilgrims and Puritans, founded colonies in New England. These settlers were motivated as much by faith as by economic opportunity. Over time, they built towns, churches, schools, and local governments influenced by their strict religious beliefs. 13 colonies, 13 identities. By the early 1700s, Britain had established 13 distinct colonies along the Atlantic coast. They weren't unified. In fact, they often argued and competed with one another. But they shared English language, English laws, English political traditions, a growing desire for independence in how they governed themselves. Still, they remained British until conflict arrived from Europe. Chapter 3. The French and Indian War, and how Britain accidentally set America free, a battle between empires. In the 1750s, Britain and France both wanted control of the Ohio River Valley. Native American tribes had lived there for centuries, but European rivalry over trade and territory brought conflict to their doorsteps. This escalated into the French and Indian War, part of the global 7 Years' War, involving nearly every major power in Europe. Britain wins the war, but loses the colonies. Britain emerged victorious, gaining Canada and most French territory east of the Mississippi River. But victory came with a staggering cost. Britain,